So what are these killers of early retirement, and what can you do to make sure you don't fall prey to them? I've been a fee-only financial advisor for over 20 years, and I've helped guide hundreds of families into retirement and avoid falling victim to these killers. So let's jump in and talk about them. The first one is uncertainty. Frankly, it's uncertainty about whether you have enough money to last the rest of your life. And it's a big challenge because the reality is our lives are just filled with uncertainty. To plan on having one lump sum last you your whole life, if you knew which path you were on, if you knew how your life was going to play out, if you knew when you were going to pass away, it'd be relatively easy to plan for that. But the reality is we have to plan without knowing these things. So what can you do? Fortunately, financial advisors have a tool. It's called Monte Carlo simulation, where we can simulate many tens of thousands actually, of different scenarios, including good outcomes, including bad outcomes. And then your financial advisor can give you a probability of success. And I think that's a really powerful tool. Now, none of these plans are going to say you have 100% certainty of never running out of money. I wish we could give that. I wish that we could give certainty. But what we can do is we can give clarity. And as a financial advisor for my clients, I want to see them have as high of a certainty, as high of a probability of success as possible. And often that looks like 95% probability of success, 97% probability of success. But what I can tell you is in order to get to that high level, some people might be comfortable with just an 80% probability of success. And what does it take to go from 80% probability of success to 97%? It takes years of your life. If you want to retire early, is it really worth that trade-off? And nobody can answer that except for you. Is it worth working a few more years in order to take your probability of success from 80% to 97%? But what we can do is we can come up with a plan, we can have some contingencies, and nobody flies the plane right into the ground if you are uncertain. If there's some bad events that happen early in retirement when your financial assets are the higher, right? So a 30% drop is taking a 30% hit on all of those assets when it's at the highest amount. If you find yourself on this path, either you and your financial advisor can work together and say, okay, we're not riding this plane into the ground. We're going to make some adjustments. So the first one is uncertainty. One of the comfort blankets, if you will, around that is the Monte Carlo simulations that financial advisors can run for you. Okay, the second killer, and this tends to be one when you're months away from retiring. You're almost across that finish line, and this killer comes out of nowhere and says, maybe you should work just one more year. Your boss says, hey, we're going to hate to lose you. And congratulations that you're ready to retire. But how about we sweeten the pot a little bit? How about you stay just one more year? And sometimes it's worth just one more year. It's your decision on that. But you have to be careful. In fact, I call those the four most dangerous words for soon-to-be retirees. And many people have been sidetracked just as they were getting ready to cross the finish line. I don't want to see that happen to you. So I want you to have a game plan. And if that opportunity does come up to work one more year, have thought about it ahead of time. Hey, what if they offer, a lucrative package? Would, if you have a life partner, talk to your life partner. Should we take that? And think about it ahead of time so you're not kind of on the spot and you're not caught up in this wanting to please your boss. You've probably worked in your profession for many years. You may have worked at this company for many years, so you don't want to disappoint anybody. But think about it ahead of time and be ready. Think about the pros and the cons. And please really think through, would you do just one more year twice? Would you do it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times? And how would you feel if the second or third time you did it, maybe you had a stroke and now you could no longer do some of the things that you wanted to do? One of the key tenets in making good financial decisions, particularly for something as important as when you retire, is don't trade something that's super important. Don't give that away in order to gain something that's not important. You know what? Many of us have money at this stage in our lives, but you know what? We don't have time. Once we lose our health, we don't get that back. Well, it's going to be hard to get your health back, right? Once you have a heart attack, you can't unring that bell. So be very careful that you don't trade away something that's really important to you, one of your healthiest and most active years, in order to gain something that's not that important to you. A couple extra $10,000, maybe $100,000. Maybe that's really important. And if it is, this isn't a judgment. It depends on where you're at in your financial life. If you have $100 million, I would not trade off a year of your life for $100,000, right? But if you have $500,000 and you're getting ready to retire, you know, an extra $100,000 could really bump up the probability of success and could make that retirement a little more comfortable. Again, none of this is judgment. The third one is just the fear of the transition. This is a big, big transition, going from working into retirement. And I liken it to when a high school senior at the end of their summer, they're going to college, heads away to college. You know, they've lived in this hometown, they've lived with mom and dad all these years, and they put everything they own into 2 suitcases, and they go to the other side of the state, they go to the other side of the country. They're surrounded by people that they don't know, oftentimes for the first time in their life, right? They may have gone through the whole school system and known friends since they were 3, 4, 5 years old. And that's a scary thing. But you know what? Few 18-year-olds would say, you know what, life with mom and dad was so much better, I want to move home. Some would, but most are like, oh, you know, now that I've made that transition, I'm happy. And I think you're going to find the same thing with retirement. It does take work, it does take preparation in order to make that transition smoothly and successfully. But it's worth that time, it's worth that effort. I liken it to almost, you know, you're on one side of the Grand Canyon and that's your work life, and you've been on that side of the Grand Canyon for 40 years. And on the other side of the Grand Canyon, on the other rim, is retirement. But you know what? You gotta hike down to the river, and you gotta hike back up that other wall, and you're gonna be tired when you get there, but you're gonna be glad that you made it to the other side. And another thing is, you know, while you're on the work side of the Grand Canyon rim, there's other hikers coming up from the other side. And they're telling you, oh, do the hike. Oh, it's glorious. You should do it. Don't hold back. You're gonna be glad that you did it, but you're still wondering, do I have enough water? I think I've used this analogy enough, but it's just that transition. But no matter when you retire, whether you retire at 55, 65, or 75, you're gonna have to go through that transition. So why not go through that transition sooner while you're healthy and you have these active years? Why trade those off just to avoid this transition that frankly is inevitable? So I encourage you to face that and to leap into that. Okay. I want to give you a bonus. Fourth killer is one that a lot of people don't talk about. And that fourth killer of early retirement, that fourth killer of retirement is losing your health. And if you're healthy now, you're 55, you're 58, you're 60, and you can afford to retire, and you put it off, you know, this fourth killer is always looming in the background. And we can do what we can to stay as healthy as we can, right? We can go to the gym, we can eat well, practice positivity, so we can have mental health and physical health, but none of us know what's around the corner. So I want you to be cautious of that. And if you need any additional motivation, part 2 of this video is really this video right here, where I talk about 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.